Daniel Carter had learned early that success meant little if it came at the cost of his integrity. For nearly 10 years, he had worked for a major technology company in Dallas, Texas, building a reputation as one of the most dependable sales representatives in the region. He wasn't the loudest person in the office, nor did he drive an expensive car or wear designer suits. He was simply consistent every morning. He arrived before the doors were fully open, reviewed his clients, and prepared for another demanding day. Daniel was also raising his 12-year-old daughter, Lily, alone. After losing his wife several years earlier, he had promised himself that Lily would never feel forgotten. He worked hard, but he always made time for school events, parent meetings, and late-night conversations at the kitchen table. That year, Daniel's sales numbers were extraordinary. Month after month, he exceeded his targets. He brought in new clients, recovered accounts other representatives had abandoned, and negotiated contracts that generated millions in revenue. By December, the internal sales report showed Daniel clearly ahead of everyone else. His colleagues congratulated him. "You've got the award." His coworker Marcus told him. Daniel smiled. "I hope so. You don't hope you earned it." Daniel laughed quietly. The annual company award ceremony was held at an elegant hotel downtown. Employees gathered in formal clothes, while executives sat at the front of the ballroom. Lily sat beside Daniel, proudly wearing a small blue dress. "Dad," she whispered, "are you really getting the big trophy?" Daniel smiled. "That's what everyone says." She squeezed his hand. "I'm proud of you either way." Those words meant more to Daniel than any award. When the ceremony reached the sales category, Daniel sat up slightly. The CEO, Victoria Hayes, walked toward the stage holding an envelope. "Tonight," she announced, "we recognize our top seller of the year." The room became silent. Daniel's name appeared on the presentation screen. His colleagues began applauding. Lily's face lit up. "That's you." Daniel stood halfway before Victoria raised her hand. However, she continued after reviewing several factors. "We've decided the award will go to Ethan Hayes." The applause immediately disappeared. "Ethan?" Victoria's son walked onto the stage with a surprised smile. Daniel remained frozen. Lily looked at him. "Dad." Daniel slowly sat back down. Victoria handed Ethan the trophy. "This award recognizes exceptional sales performance," she said. Daniel knew that statement wasn't true. He had the reports. He had the contracts. He had the numbers. Ethan hadn't even come close. After the ceremony, Daniel approached Victoria privately. "Ma'am, I believe there may have been a mistake." Victoria looked at him coldly. "There was no mistake. My sales numbers. I've made my decision." Daniel stared at her, then he looked toward Lily, who was waiting near the entrance. He could have argued. He could have embarrassed Victoria in front of everyone. Instead, he simply nodded. "All right." He took his daughter's hand and walked away. Neither Daniel nor Victoria noticed the older man standing near the ballroom doors. Chairman Robert Hayes had heard every word the next morning. Daniel arrived at the Dallas office expecting nothing more than another difficult day. He had barely placed his briefcase beside his desk when his phone rang. "Mr. Carter, the chairman would like to see you." Daniel paused. "The chairman?" "Yes, immediately." Daniel walked toward the executive floor, wondering what Robert Hayes could possibly want. When he entered the chairman's office, Robert was standing beside a large window overlooking downtown Dallas. Several printed reports covered his desk. "Sit down." Daniel sat. Robert placed one report in front of him. "Do you recognize these numbers?" Daniel looked down. They were the company's annual sales results. "Yes, your numbers." Daniel nodded. Robert placed another report beside it. "Ethan's numbers." Daniel looked at the comparison. There was no contest. Daniel had generated nearly twice the sales Ethan had. Robert slowly sat down. "Last night, I reviewed the records myself." Daniel remained silent. "You were the top seller. I know what the reports say. Then why didn't you fight for the award?" Daniel looked down. "Because I didn't want my daughter watching me turn an award ceremony into a public argument." Robert studied him carefully. "That was a difficult choice." Daniel nodded. "I wanted to win fairly. I didn't want to win by humiliating someone else." Before Robert could respond, Victoria entered the office. "Dad, you wanted to see me." Robert turned toward her. "Yes." Victoria noticed Daniel sitting across from him. Her expression immediately hardened. "What is he doing here?" Robert picked up the sales report. "I should be asking you that." Victoria frowned. "I don't understand." "You stole his award." Victoria's face changed. "That isn't true." Robert placed Ethan's sales report on the desk. Your son finished far behind Daniel. Victoria crossed her arms. There were other factors. What factors? Leadership, potential client relationships, long-term value. Robert stared at her. Then, why did you announce it as top seller? Victoria had no immediate answer. Robert continued. You used your position to give your son an award he didn't earn. Dad, Ethan is my son and Daniel is your employee. Victoria remained silent. Robert's voice became firmer. That's exactly why you should have been more careful. Daniel quietly stood. I don't want this to become a family argument. Robert looked at him. This isn't about family, it's about fairness. He turned back to Victoria, returned the award. Victoria's jaw tightened. You're serious completely. Robert then instructed HR to correct the official records, recognize Daniel publicly, and investigate whether similar favoritism had occurred elsewhere. Daniel was handed the original trophy later that afternoon. His coworkers applauded as he entered the office. Lily was waiting outside with a smile. You finally got it. Daniel smiled and held up the trophy. Yes, then he looked at Robert. The chairman offered him a promotion to regional sales director. Daniel accepted, but only after asking for one condition. Create a transparent award system. He said no executives should ever be able to give an award to family members simply because they can. Robert smiled. Done, and from that day forward, Daniel's achievement was no longer just a trophy. It became the reason the company changed its rules.